The following podcast contains opinions which are intangible and pose no threat to your safety. It also contains spoilers, which are very real and may harm your viewing experience. You've been warned. And welcome to a special episode.
Very special.
Of Bits, Chips, and Flip Scripts. I'm Bam.
I'm Cam.
And we're going to do like a little bit of a introduction piece, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of get to know us because we're those faces behind the mask.
I thought for sure you were going to say Bit Chip Boys.
I was going to, I thought about it, but I pulled back.
Yeah.
I pulled back.
Such restraint.
I try. We want to do just a little episode.
Who the hell are these guys?
Yeah, kind of, right? Like, we're new. We've gotten, starting to get a little bit of a following now.
I think we just hit 200 listens.
Oh, that's
very
so
close.
Hey, listen, that number is good.
Even though, like, 16 of them are us.
It's good. It's all right. I like it.
I don't want to put all the pressures to be super professional that I normally do. I know you're shocked, but I just want it to be like a cool, like a chill.
I know. I'm just looking to hang out with my buddy Cam.
Yeah. We're such consummate professionals. This will be a completely different episode than you're used to hearing.
You're gonna have no idea what's going on.
It's the same guys.
Who are these handsome sounding voices?
Yes.
This is not the normal gunk we're used to.
And don't go looking for pictures. You'll be sorely disappointed.
Aww.
By me. Bam's very handsome. I picked you as my audio podcast host because you're so handsome.
Based solely on how handsome this disembodied voice is.
Yeah, you talk like a handsome.
I don't. Anyway.
Bam's an artist. Let's talk about that.
I guess we can just go for that. So yeah, name's Bam. I don't think I've ever done an interview before.
Really?
Nope. So
I've done a bunch.
Well, now for real. Yeah, so name's Bam. I run, it's an illustration studio, Lamplighter Studio.
Let them illuminate your imagination.
Ooh, it sounds so much better coming from your voice. I could take that.
You can use that.
You could use. I'll just clip
everything I say on this show is property of Lamplighter anyway, as far as I understand it.
I mean, there's no contracts yet.
Yeah.
But I specialize in cartooning and I guess like comic illustrations. You can find me on Twitter at BamZram and
BamZeram.
Yeah, I guess that I should put it out that way.
I'm just here for clarification. He's going to do all the talking.
That's because I've clearly never plugged myself before.
You did one time, and then you just put the same recording at the end of all your episodes.
Oh, well, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's how that works.
And then you let other people do it for you, vis-a-vis me. So
that's the best. Okay, listen. I mean, like, if you have to get any kind of like marketing or whatever, or like you have to have other people do it.
Yes,
I can't. I'm not gonna write a book and then put on the back, "This book is fantastic."
Bam.
The Arthur, yeah, like sign the Arthur, the author. So like, yeah, you gotta have other people. I have other people to quote, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys can sing my praises. Sure. And I'll just be like, oh, act modest. Oh, you flatter me so.
Emphasis on act.
That's the truth.
Yes. So, yeah, Bam's art's pretty good.
It's all right.
I assume much of our fan base is a heavy Venn diagram at this point with pretend friends. So
that's probably true.
He does the splash art for the episodes. The I don't know, they're not technically like thumbnails. They're
thumbnails.
Okay.
I
mean, thumbnails. Yeah,
no, I do thumbnails, splash art, character concepts, stuff like that. Just a bunch of fun stuff for pretend friends.
And that's Bam.
Outside of that and like commission work, I don't have anything out yet. I am working on a comic that I'm really excited to get out, but I'm not going to drop any dates just yet.
Right. Soon. Trademark.
Soon, as in like, oh, maybe next year. But no, I'm excited to be working on that too. But what about you, Cam? What do you like to do?
Oh, well, what I like
How
to do...
do you survive?
Yeah. I was going to say, what I like to do and what I do for a living overlap more than I would think a lot of people, present company excluded. I am a computer programmer. I mostly just write software, and people like it when I do that. It's tough. And I imagine, I know we've had this conversation before. Like,
sure.
It's tough to make something you're passionate about your job, because it definitely takes away from wanting to do that in your free time.
Absolutely.
So while I want to say that, like, oh, well, a hobby of mine is programming computers, and it is, it's just the time I spend hobbyist programming is definitely diminished since I started doing it as a job. So.
Now, do you think it would be, I feel like it would be accurate to say, and maybe I'm speaking for both of us, where it's like, yeah, like, art is my career, programming is your career, video games are our hobbies.
Pretty
right?
much, yeah.
Like, I mean, despite the fact that maybe somewhere in the future, like, video games may be part of our careers.
That'd be super cool.
That would be great. Nintendo, hire me.
Yeah.
Nintendo, that'd be fine. I think it's very clear that the amount of time we put into video games is definitely sort of makes it a hobby, whereas opposed to like doing art or like programming, like I definitely for art spend more time doing it to get paid than I do doing it for the funsies.
Yeah, me too. And I think we both found ourselves in careers where, like, I feel like a lot of our peers, maybe, I think it's more the vocal minority the more I live in this world, but, like, there are the, like, quote-unquote true believers that are like, well, if you don't spend 16 hours a day doing art, then you're not a real fucking artist.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't spend at least 16 hours a day being a douchebag, you're not a real douchebag. And hey, let me tell you something, sir.
First off, you just brought up true believers, and it made me so sad.
I'm sorry. I was using it in a facetious manner.
I'm
just
sure
so
you did.
Aware.
No, you're good. It's just like not to like date the podcast, but like R.I.P. Stanley. I will miss you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, that came out a little more organically than I thought. Yeah. Yeah, something of a somber occasion. But we're trying to plow past that.
I mean, like, if anything, too, like that's speaking of hobbies, and not to sort of like take from you, like I think like comic books are definitely something I really want to get back into. Speaking of hobbies,
yeah,
I used to read so much, now I barely at all. Like it's just not something I do a lot of.
Yeah, I never really got into comic books necessarily. Like I had a few as a kid. And it was one of those things I liked more like conceptually than to actually indulge in as a medium. It's kind of like how I feel about anime now. Like I used to be really into it, and now I feel, I don't know, I'm gonna get a little like philosophical, but I think it's a little disingenuous to just go to people and be like, I like anime, because I guarantee you dislike more than you like. Like that's just like saying I like movies, right? It's such a broad net to cast. It doesn't mean anything.
No, yeah, it's just it's a medium, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy the art style, then that's one thing. But like, there's so much more to liking anime than just the art style. So.
No, absolutely. That's like I like Western cartoons. Like, okay, well,
Cowboy Bebop.
Sure, right? There you go. No, that's pretty legit.
Yeah. Well, we're obviously both huge video game enthusiasts. Because the word nerd has lost all its meaning.
What are you talking about? Oh, nerds are cool now. Bazinga.
The zeitgeist.
Oh, fuck my Whatever. It's fine. No, you know what? It's not fine. I just thought about it and I was like, yeah, I mean, like, hey, at least nerds are accepted now. But it's like they're not. Just like this two-dimensional like concept of them is slightly accepted.
Bazinga was probably the most accurate way to put it.
Yeah.
It's a very apt comparison.
Oh well, that's America.
We gotta stop doing that.
They come up with a new one that's just like fucking Price is Right.
Sound effect hour. I think I didn't even know that was from The Price is Right.
You know that's from The Price is Right?
You told me that a couple months ago. I just thought it was some generic sound.
I'm hoping it's The Price is Right. It might be some other.
I think you're right. No, I think I did my research and found out that you were correct.
Tom Bergeron or whoever.
Is it not Drew Carey?
It's Drew Carey now. I don't know who
elderly white man.
Yeah, elderly white guy.
I guess the one elderly is not the right word for it, but
I mean, kinda. I'm baby boomer, right? who is the guy before? Why can't I remember his freaking
Bob
name?
Barker?
Bob Barker, thank you. I said
Price is wrong.
I said
bitch.
yeah. I said there it is. There's the reference. I said Tom Bergeron as a joke, and then like that's all I could think about was Tom Bergeron doing.
He has that effect on people. That's why he's so marketable.
He is. He's like. He's so
everywhere.
Marketable.
Now we're really dating the podcast. So we know that this episode was recorded sometime after Stan Lee died and sometime before Tom Bergeron died. That's your window, folks.
Hey, whatever. I'm trying to think of like a way to like organically fit this, and I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't think there's a segue.
Nope. So we'll just kind of go right into it. So yeah, Kevin and I, old buddies.
I mean, like, so
I'm trying to like weave a graceful tale, and it's
spin a
like
yarn.
Exactly, but I am no pirate. I'm not good at it.
'Twas the olden days, back in a small town in Michigan.
But yeah, so like
we were both way smarter than everyone around. No, I'm just kidding.
I
That's
mean,
like every story, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
I
I knew everyone around me was an idiot. I needed to move out of this one-horse town.
I feel like, oh, that makes sense, because our town was the horse capital of Michigan.
Oh, well, now they know.
Oh, well, it's not anymore. It's
no,
fine.
but that's readily available information.
Readily available. Oh, cut that.
Yeah.
Just cut it.
Cut the tape.
Okay, good. But no, it's interesting. So, like, I hadn't heard from you for a while. So, like, we were good friends, and then we rekindled, and now, like, we're good friends again.
Yeah. I mean, like, to be fair, I don't think we ever stopped being good
No,
friends.
you're
we just
right,
stopped
but-
staying in touch very well.
Yeah, it's great, and I like that. I mean, not to like wear my heart on a sleeve for listeners, but like it's cool that we came up with an idea of like, hey, this is how we can hang out and also like do something.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like we're doing this for money or anything, because we're not. Because we're not making money. We're not doing this is certainly for fun. But I do like making projects, right? Like I do a lot of work where the only payment I'm getting is the satisfaction of finishing it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I just like to do that. I'm a hands-on guy, I guess. So I thought it was really cool, and this podcast was your idea.
Yeah, I guess I'll take credit for that.
I'm giving you that credit because I think it's genius. Honestly,
Thanks,
like it's pretty
man.
smart.
No, it's so when I initially, well, when Bam and I started, like when we sort of rekindled our friendship or whatever, again
Or whatever.
Well, however you would choose to. Because I'm just saying like
I know.
rekindled seems inaccurate given the other statement I just made.
No,
about, like,
you're
us not
absolutely
having,
right. I mean, like you gotta fluff it up, right?
Yeah. When from the ashes of our friendship,
There
a
it is.
brilliant phoenix rose.
There it
There we
is.
go. No, but again, and I don't know. You can cut this part if you don't want this like getting out. But it was after you had embarked on a foray with another podcast that heretofore has not had any episodes in a while.
Yeah, it wasn't too successful.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, that's really cool. It sort of got me in the thought process that led me down the path to create the show. But it was just like, man, you've always been not only a very creative and very prolific person, but
thank you.
You like, yeah, no problem. You like to share your work, and I would say, and I hope that the listeners agree. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Right.
That it's of quite a high caliber. And so I don't know. I don't remember how much of this I divulged to you at the time, but it was like I see you as a person who's like never really satisfied to sort of not be putting his heart into something.
Right.
And for a while, I very much was the opposite, right? I just kind of, I was content to like sit on the couch and drink a beer every night of the week and like play some video games and not talk about them on a recorded medium, like.
Right.
And so I don't know. It was kind of just like it lit a spark under me. I was like, man, that's really cool. And I see like even don't read too far into this, but like even when it doesn't pan out, you seem to get a good experience out of it, right?
No, absolutely.
So it's really just for the love of creating.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have anything that was like that in my life, so I was trying to think of something. I didn't want to ape the podcast idea too hard, but here we are. So
no, it's great. That's super cool. Yeah, no, I not to get like philosophical, but like
I think we're gonna tread that line. That's
just who we are.
Well,
I guess the whole,
with it.
Right. The whole point is they're figuring out who we are as people,
Yeah.
and we like to sort of get a little deeper. But the way you raised your eyebrow was so perfect, listeners. If you could have seen that. So
it's an artist rendition.
Yeah. I just think like, I don't know, experience means the most to me, right? Like we live in a fleeting existence where everything is rotting and decaying to a point of like, it's entropy, right? Like everything just breaks down and crumbles. It's all, right. But like, so the only thing I can really put value in is experience, because to me, like that's like in my limited perception as a human being, that's going to be the most longest lasting thing, are not so much the memories, but like the feelings I have. Like there's something that seems immortal about them, and I know like it's not, but to me it seems that way. So like I really put value in experience and not so much material things, right?
No, I 100% right there.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, he said that and I agree with it. He said that and I agree with it. Oh my goodness, we should host a podcast together.
Oh my god, this. It's
and I'm talking like that happened right now.
This is what we should do.
Yeah,
Cam, I got an idea.
Wait,
let's make a podcast,
dude. Brilliant. You stole my idea when I said we should make a podcast, and then we did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, back in time, I sat on the idea for a couple months, and I thought, I could, I'm a programmer. I use the right tools to be able to use like Unity to make a game, but like that's such a commitment, and like it's just, when my aim was to get something of myself out there in the world, like that wasn't the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
And also the previously mentioned problems of like work and free time.
So
I settled on podcast, and like I listen to a lot of podcasts, like God, this is going to sound like such a hipster thing, but like
just shoot it.
When I'm in the car, I don't listen to music, I listen to podcasts. Now part of that is that usually when I am engaged with something else, I'm listening to music.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time listening to music like with nothing else going on. Likewise, I can't listen to podcasts when I'm like working on something. So that's the delineation. When I'm in the car, I have the freedom to, drive, but listen to the podcast. I'm not so engrossed in something else.
No, absolutely. I get that.
My podcast diatribe. And so, I just like, it kind of became a problem, actually, if I'm being honest, because in the lead up to us starting the show, I would listen to other podcasts and be like, oh, I'm going to steal that idea. Or like, oh, I would have done that this way, right?
Yeah.
Lo and behold, none of that stuck, right? Like it was almost a pointless exercise, but...
That's actually super interesting, because I feel like that's... Because obviously this is like our first podcast. Baby's first well...
I'm the baby.
Yeah. It's Cameron's first podcast. When you're starting out at like any project, you obviously have some form of inspiration for it, right? Because if you don't, then that means you don't understand the medium, and you're going to sort of drop it and fail. So you have to have some grasp to like the concept of the medium you're working in, and like you're always going to draw like attention from that. And I feel like one of the things I love about the concept for this podcast in particular is that it's not something I've seen at all. Not to like toot or like maybe this podcast is just a big circle. This episode, I'm sorry, is just a big circle jerk. So I apologize, but like it's a really creative idea, and
thanks.
I know it is, but and I haven't seen it yet. So like it's hard for like I can't take anything, right? Like sure, I have mannerisms of comedy that like I'll take from Looney Tunes or whatever,
right.
Or like we both love Homestar Runner.
Yeah, we do.
The references are wild, but outside of like just small things that have sort of worked their way into our process over over 20 years of us existing.
Yeah,
right. Like I feel like this is definitely something where like it forces me to be as original as I like and capable of being. Like. And I know, like, original is a concept. It's like, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. Like, I totally get that, and I'm not saying, like, I'm the newest thing since whatever, but it's cool that way, because it forces my brain to do workings.
Yeah, well, you're a psychologist, formally, anyway.
Yeah.
An aspiring psychologist, formally, I should say. But, it eliminates those neural pathways that our brain is so apt to use when it can.
Absolutely.
When you just sort of shortcut things, you go on autopilot, your brain's like, I've solved this before, here you go. Right. We don't necessarily have the luxury of doing that. And also, we don't have the luxury of falling back on formula necessarily. I mean, obviously the formula is take a game and change it and then speculate on the changes. But even just like the amount of content in the show, for the intro, and then the description of the game, and then obviously onto what I would consider to be the meat of the podcast, and sometimes doesn't even end up being, is the changes. You know, I noticed this a couple weeks ago where like we put out an episode and maybe only it was less than half of the episode was based on the changes, and that was fine.
Sure, it worked for that episode.
It's tough to know if that's sustainable, if that's what we need to move toward, and because to our knowledge, you know, we haven't been exposed to this type of show or endeavor before. Like,
right.
It's hard to know. We kind of have to, you know, make our own way, I guess.
Go your own way.
Go your own way.
Yeah, no, there's, and not to sort of take away, like, I don't want to devalue like the effort we put into anything, but like there's a lot of winging it. You know what I mean? Yeah, like,
we're pretty good at talking to one another, and it's very helpful.
It is, absolutely. There's it helps things roll along.
Yeah. Silently on the side before we started this podcast, like, and I mentioned it in the episode, but just in case you haven't heard that one, the idea I'd come up with that led me to the bits, chips, and flip scripts formula was like, okay, well, what about this show where like we change stuff? And I'm like, you know, well, that's super vague. That's not helpful. This is an inner dialogue, by the way. Both voices are still me. And I was like, okay, like how would that work? And I came up with a couple that I honestly can't remember. They were kind of non-starters. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, oh, well, like what, like something they tell you at the beginning of every Pokemon game is this person is 10. And so I just said, what if that person was like 16? And then from there, it really started to flow. And of course, like the first one I came up with, again, I think I mentioned this in the episode, was like, well, you'd never see the morning cycle. Because I know I didn't when I was a teenager. Nope. And actually, that's more of a meta thing. If I were to pick up Pokemon Gold and play it as a teenager, I would never see the morning cycle because I don't wake up early enough. So your character sure as hell wouldn't.
Yeah. I totally had that problem with Sun and Moon.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it was always nighttime, and I'm like, oh, why?
I actually, even when I was playing Silver, like I would wake up, but I'd have to like do things around the house. Then by the time I got around to playing, it was like 10:30, which in that game is afternoon or whatever. Right. So like you really got to wake up early. But yeah, and so like that was, I figured if I could do that with that one out of like, let's say maybe there were 5 or 10 games that I had sort of like workshopped like on my own. Yeah. I was like, if I can at least hit something of that quality with that consistency, like then we can make a show out of it.
Absolutely. No.
And getting a second perspective into it obviously helps. Like if like there's a lot of times when I can't think of something for a game, but you can, or I can't think of a game that I want to do and you can.
Right.
And then also just like, you know, doing it a couple times made it easier to do it the next couple times, right?
Yeah.
Like getting a feel for like, where do we like stretch this Stretch Armstrong doll, you know, to make it look different. And that actually is kind of a problem sometimes. Like I tend to fall on a couple of the same sort of broad categories.
Oh, okay.
So I like when we don't
do that. No, I'm totally down with that. Like and that's why I mean, like we have to sort of push the we have to push that like the creativity a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
we have to think outside the box.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, and as silly as that sounds, like it's fun. Like that's good problem solving. That my brain is all about that shit.
Mm-hmm. So, no, I agree totally. And
not to go ahead.
Well, the last thing I was gonna say is I really like it when the change we pick is like specifically tailored to that game.
Yeah,
like change the character could literally be any game.
Sure,
but time stops in Majora's Mask is directly related to the fact that the game surrounds a time schedule.
In fact, I remember one of the ones like when we were first like, I guess we call it troubleshooting, like the concept before we were doing anything. For the podcast. We talked about so this is the Pokemon one, obviously, and then we talked about something simple like Link's sword is a fish.
Oh yeah,
or something like that. And that's a good example of like that has nothing to do with that fucking game at all.
Well, yeah, that was also a good example of like not every change is going to be a winner because like Link's sword is a fish. Okay, he dies.
He dies. That's the end. Ganon wins.
Yeah, and then but I think like I think the best example of having to think outside the box that we've had so far was like this is gonna sound self-congratulatory, but I don't fucking care. Is when we were playing Abe's Odyssey, and I was like, well, we almost always like our hero comes off the better for the change that we make. So like, what if we just take, I mean, a hero that already has had his fair share of misfortune and just like dump some more on.
That's it was great too, because like that's definitely something. Because like I mean, you and I are like we're happy boys.
We are happy.
we like
we're the ones who smile.
We're the ones who smile. We like when there's peace and happiness. So like taking that like let's dump on a character more. It was a good way to switch it up. It was fun.
Yeah. And then like when we were doing Castle Crashers, we talked about like, well, I like it better if the orange princess dies instead of being the clown. Which again, like that's why this episode's important. Like if you as a listener had listened to that episode and none of the other ones, you would think that I was kind of like a dark, brooding so and so, which like couldn't be farther from the truth. And I felt like I tried to buck that a little bit, but at the same time, like, I don't know.
It's funny, right?
It was more for like artistic integrity. Like I think that's a more satisfying for the story sort of outcome. But anyway,
but I mean, it's definitely interesting to try to like we're flipping the script, right? We're weaving tales. Especially because like comedy, like the essence of comedy is that which is like is unbelievable, right? Like it's quote unquote ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So for us who are like generally positive dudes, like negative stuff tends to be very funny. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
and it tends to not come very easily. Yeah.
So I just thought about this because we were talking about the whole Zelda thing, and well, Zelda and Pokemon. But I remember when we first started, we were talking about doing like an algorithm. Do you remember that?
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm still if we get to the point where the well runs a little dry, then like I can set that up. As
I was gonna say, is that something you still would want to consider?
Oh yeah, it'd be super easy. Like the hardest part would be gathering the raw data, right?
Sure.
So just to give people like an insight of something we thought about doing that we might in the future. Mm-hmm. We'll like take a Google Sheets, their version of Excel.
Yeah.
And have one column be like a list of games that we would want to do, and then. In my head, like it's gone through a couple of revisions, but what I've settled on is like what changes. So, here's Metroid and the weapon changes. And then the next column could be like, what does it change to? And I think on it, what that would end up being is like we'd have a weapon column and then like a clothing column, right?
Sure.
So like when it came upon that as the change, then it would go over to that column and randomly pick one. And then we could do sort of like a roulette wheel type of thing, or a slot machine, I guess, and like match them up and like ding, ding, ding. Okay, it's Metroid. We're changing the clothing. The clothing's made of cheese or something.
Yeah,
like, it would. I want to make sure we do it right. I think there's gonna be a couple bad versions of that before.
Yeah, but absolutely.
And obviously I would have to be programming outside of work, which I gotta say difficult but worth it for the show.
Oh, I'm glad you think so. Definitely something I think I'm excited to see is like once we start getting to a point where like we're getting more feedback. I will be very interested to see because like we definitely have a concept of what we want and like what we enjoy listening to, and I think as definitely I can speak as a creator. Like I know like I have to sort of stick to what I enjoy as opposed to like what the fans are demanding.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So your passion for
exactly. Yeah. So I totally understand that, but at the same time though, like feedback is good, and it will be interesting to see like what other people take from our episodes, because there definitely isn't a like you said, like the structure is like similar, but it's fluid.
Yeah,
I suppose
it definitely is variable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also just like if it's just two guys sitting in a room, like, man, we made a really good podcast today. Like, it doesn't give us a lot of opportunity to grow. So,
yeah.
I think we've done a pretty good job thus far. But fan feedback is, I am really excited.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to increase our outreach
and
get more people listening. So, by the way, I don't think we do a really good job of mentioning this, but if anyone listening, I know we have at least 3 of you.
Yeah, right.
We have like a steady number of downloads or like whatever. There's like a core group in there. Like if you can mention us to any of your friends you think would be interested. I mean, I know when I like something, I usually do that anyway, and you guys probably have. And if you have, we thank you very, very from the bottom of our hearts.
Absolutely.
But if I don't know. Just in case it bears to be said distinctly, anyone you can tell about our show, we'd really appreciate it.
That's you're right. I feel like we kind of dropped the ball on that, and I don't know I don't know why that didn't even spawn on. Like I didn't even think about that until you just brought it up. But absolutely, like word of mouth is super important because we ain't paying for any advertisement, right? So like I don't know why we haven't kind of been pushing that.
Yeah. And you're probably better than us at it. I'm god awful.
I am absolutely awful at
self-promoting.
But that's I've got that artist thing where like I always feel like I'm annoying. So like I barely promote my own work.
Oh, you feel that too, do you?
Oh yeah, you do.
That you're annoying?
Yeah, it's okay, listen.
I would never disparage you for that. That's how you gotta make your nut. Like
That's how I got what?
Gotta make your nut.
I have never heard that expression before.
It's just like how you like feed yourself.
Oh, okay. Oh, that kind of nut.
I'm sure it has less than savory background information, but
that's how you got to get your nut.
Yeah. Make your nut.
I know.
But,
it's a masturbation.
Oh man, getting blue. That was another thing. I slight diatribe, and we can dive onto something else.
Oh,
but,
it doesn't matter.
That was another thing that was hard to like. Where do we draw the line at like how crass we want to be?
Yes,
sometimes
because we can be the worst of sailors.
Yeah,
when it comes to certain
said
things.
dick sits in an episode once.
Yeah,
and I kind of regret it, but it's already out there.
It's out there in the cosmos.
Yeah.
You can't take that back.
Yep.
Whoops. And I'll be real. Like I like limiting myself just because it forces me to be creative, right? Mm-hmm. Like because I could just
otherwise
be
just use it as a filler word.
Yeah, I could just be like poo poo pee and then call it a day,
as you often do off mic. I've been meaning to talk to you about that, but God, I love you so much. I just can't.
Listen, you got a real poo poo pee pee problem going on, and we got to address this. But I mean, like sometimes Dick Sits was hilarious. I had to leave it in. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, like
in context,
it would seem disingenuous for me to be like, "Oh, you need to cut that for like such a reason."
Oh,
like
sure,
I've had
sure.
you cut things, but it was for more altruistically motivated reasons, which we won't get into.
No, but
although I don't work there anymore, so like...
That's fair. That is actual legit. I should have just left that.
Oh
in.
My God, I know. Knowing what we know now.
Nah, it's okay.
Anyway, yeah. So I feel like that does a good job of sort of filling in some of the blanks, like that people might not know.
No, absolutely. And if anything, just like we'll see where it goes. But I would like to sort of start picking people's minds for maybe not. So we did something in an episode. I can't remember what episode. I'm a terrible podcast owner.
Was it the Majora's Mask? When we couldn't come up with an ending?
It was. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, so Majora's and then you came over there like, hey, email us and give us like your concepts. And I really do want to put a little like an emphasis on that. Like, and it probably won't happen for a while. But I'm excited to include like listeners in any way we can.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be fun. And like maybe like once we start getting like emails and we could have like a segment, or something absolutely. Where it's like just
or at least try it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fit necessarily, but I'm sure we could. Yeah, definitely. Just me as a person, like wanting to give back to the listeners is a thing.
Yeah,
that I would be interested in doing. Like we have a platform, however small, to like help other people. It's like, oh, like they said something funny and we should recognize them for that or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that I definitely would like to see where that goes.
Yeah, me too. I think that could be a lot of fun. My favorite part of the podcast is definitely like, it's cool when we're on the same page because then it's like, oh, like we did it. We did the thing. But like for me, it's a lot of fun when we start having like, we start like differing on our paths. Cause then it like forces me to sort of think on the spot, which I'm awful at and I need more of. So like, I like that exercise.
I'm surprised that I mean, I guess you're a modest person, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me that you feel that way. But I think like, I mean, and just to sort of build off of what you were saying, like, I think you can really like feel the sparks when something like happens in an emergent fashion. Yeah, like something that neither of us thought about when we sat down, like before we sat down to record, that happened in our conversation that we were then able to like take in a whole different direction. I know we did it with like Abe's Odyssey. Yes. With the sound waves thing. Right? And that's just to say like you seem to thrive okay in those segments. So I think maybe you don't give yourself a little enough.
No, well, thank you.
Too little credit.
You are a sweet pea. I will say though, like you said, like thrive, and I feel like like barely surviving. I feel is more accurate. But that's my favorite part though. And having only like these two perspectives, I feel like is fine. But like having more perspectives and that like when listeners come up with stuff that like we'd even come across, it'll be so interesting to see. Yeah,
I was thinking it might be fun to like, bring on a guest or something.
I'm thinking about that too. I don't have a lot of experience with podcasts really, but I do know that sometimes guests can be a little bit of a hassle. So it's not something I want like a ton of. No offense
but
to
like, well, for me, it's like if the game fits, right? If we've got a game and I'm like, man, there's this, whoever that's really passionate about this game. Oh, absolutely. It would seem a shame not to let them do that.
I actually, I've already got like game. No, I'm the same way, right?
I got a game and a
person. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't. not to like we actually passed up one, but I think like this early in the show,
again,
to date this episode a little bit, like it would have seemed a little preemptive.
I agree with that.
I think at that point we hadn't really ironed things out, whereas now I would feel a little more confident doing
Absolutely.
that, although maybe waiting a little bit longer would still be a good idea.
I think like now that we've gotten to a point now where it's like we've sort of made a mold, right? Like before it was we were trying to make a sword without any blueprints, and so now we kind of have blueprints.
I
right?
did
like,
that once. I made it out of wood. It was terrible. Go on.
Oh, that sounds awful. This is a complete tangent. I'm sorry. I still have one of our listeners, old friend of ours, used to make like swords and stuff out of like I don't know like weird metals he found in like the lake or whatever, just like the rusty old junk metal he found, and he used to make. Is this
exactly the person I'm thinking of?
I'm sure it is. I still have it though.
Oh.
I still hold on to it because I was like, it was cool. He taught me about like how like swords have to be weighted and stuff like that, and how like the handle and the blade. I'm using air quotes because it's literally just a slab
blade shaped
of rusted junk metal. It looks like he ripped it off a car. But yeah, I still have that.
It looks like it, and he did. No, I don't know.
Probably did. But I couldn't do any of that. And now I've got friends because now we're older. I've got friends who are literally into welding who have actual forges and do stuff. And I'm like, oh man, when I get money, I want to like throw it their way. And make me something cool.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, just make me a cast iron version of myself. holding like a globe and being like, I win.
And then like on the plinth it could be like a portrait of modesty.
Yeah. The modest one.
He's the modest boy. He's the one who's humble.
All right.
Oh,
okay.
It probably bears mention that another one of our shared inspiration, maybe not so much inspirations, but definitely something we indulge in a lot is Game Grumps.
I mean, oh God, yes, he wears the t-shirt. My Karuba, I love it. That's adorable. Yeah, I definitely do have that. And all of Normal Boots.
Yeah.
All those guys are amazing. They're all super talented. And I'm not just saying that because I work for some of them. But
Go listen to Pretend Friends. I don't work for them, and I still love it.
Listen to Pretend Friends. Listen to M Class Podcast. Watch the Continue Show. It's all good content, people.
Yeah.
Although chances are you've listened to those already.
Yeah. At this point,
before you listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
But
I'll put the question out there. You'll answer. I'll answer, and then we'll sort of have again like
that's fine.
Each of us will tell. So my first question was like super obvious. It was like favorite game, but like so question 2 is most influential game.
Okay.
And I think we can kind of like wrap those together.
Sure.
So if your favorite game is the most influential, or if it isn't, why?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a difference there.
I know, and I agree. I think there totally is.
Yeah. So what would you say is your favorite game, or even just like a favorite series or type of game?
Favorite game is definitely it's a series. Legacy of Kain.
Oh, that's right.
Legacy of Kain is probably my favorite series of all time.
I've never played that. We have to play that for the show.
We're gonna have to, and it's very heavy. It has a heavy narrative.
Yeah.
But we could play it like Soul Reaver, because Soul Reaver it's simple gameplay and like intriguing narrative, and that would be fun to mess with a little bit.
Sure.
We could definitely get something silly out of that. But no, I'm really into storytelling.
Yeah.
I love good writing. I probably get that from my mom. It's just something I've always been a fan of. I like consistency. I like it when a story comes to you and it's there's just a lot of technique involved, right? And
it's tough.
the Legacy of Kain series has one of the best stories I've ever experienced. And on top of that too, like, it's just a good package. The voice acting is fantastic. The gameplay in the earlier ones is whatever, but I mean, like, later it gets really good.
It's what you'd expect from a PS1 title.
Exactly. You bet. Absolutely. But it's just so fun and engaging, and it's funny because we talked about this in Majora's Mask, but you talk about how like time is never like it's a very messy concept, and you can fuck it up real easy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a bit, but you were talking about like how like if we just never touched the concept of time travel, like stories would be better off for it.
Yeah.
And I think like it's one that handles it so well. It's so cool because it does like.
So it does do time travel?
Time travel is the main thing about
okay.
it, but like it does.
I had no idea.
It has that. So time travel to me, it's a messy concept, but the way the Legacy of Kain handles it is that it looks at time not as like a forward, like a stream going forward, but like as like a cyclical nature almost. Okay. So like I can't give it away because like just go play. If you haven't played the Legacy of Kain series, you don't have to play like Blood Omen. You just have to play Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Soul Reaver 2, Soul Reaver Defiance.
Okay, so you only have to go play 4 games before
out of 5.
We appreciate you. Yeah,
but it's just so good, and like it's got my favorite things because it's got like angels and vampires, and like I'm a huge fantasy nerd. So
how do you not play Magic?
I did play Magic. That's the thing, right? Like I'm not into like collecting stuff. The thing I like about video games is I pay $60 and then bam, I've got a whole thing there. Like when it comes to like Hearthstone or Magic or whatever it is, like constantly be paying to get new cards and stuff, and there's also a competitive aspect I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, for
you're gonna hate playing Smash with me.
No. So that's different. That's fun. I was just gonna say, so like for people who don't know, I am a huge Overwatch fan.
Yeah,
huge Overwatch fan. The only game I think I've put more hours into than Overwatch is probably Minecraft.
Oh, yeah.
Because Minecraft is my therapy, so like I'm always on Minecraft just for like whatever reason. But yeah, Overwatch is super fun for me. I like that there's a competitive aspect to it, but I feel like I have a direct input into my success. Right, It is a team-based game, and yeah, you have to deal with that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like I can look back and be like, this is how I performed.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like. Sorry, not to like steal the spotlight, but like that's what intrigues me so much about like going back to Smash. Like Smash is the only one I find accessible.
Yeah, sure.
But fighting games, like I think it's exactly what you said. You know, you have the tightest control over your character for the most part.
Yeah.
In definitely FPSs, yeah. And then fighting games is like if you do the right inputs, you're gonna get the same output. Like the hard part is the inputs. Which I go back and forth on, but that's a different conversation.
Sure.
It's just, there's always room to improve. Like there's always new techniques to pick up on like a microsecond by microsecond basis. You can adjust and be better or worse at the game at a given time. But sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because like, despite the fact that I play those games a lot, like when I think of Legacy of Kain, which I've only played a couple times, but those games to me are like a fine like steak. Not even a steak, like freaking a brilliant 3-course meal you get at a super extravagant restaurant. It's Overwatch is like potato chips, right? Like I love it, but like I just consume and it's what, and so like that kind of, I have a little bit of devalue to that. I still value what it is and its place, but if we're talking about favorite games, the Legacy of Kain games are games I put up on a pedestal of how I want all my games to be like.
Sure.
That's, to me, it was the most engaging and interesting experience for me. But surprisingly not the most influential. But Cam, what's your what would you say your favorite game is?
Again, so favorite, not necessarily most influential.
Sure.
It's just gotten to the point where like I've kind of memed myself with my friends. Donkey Kong Country 2 is my favorite game. In my opinion, the best game ever made. I know that's not a popular opinion. It's the one that has been made that I most want to play at any given time. Part of that was just that I played it as a kid, but there were a lot of games I played as a kid. I got my Super Nintendo. It was my first console that I owned. I got it from my uncle. And then I just had whatever games he had. So I had Super Mario World. I had DKC 2 and 3. I had Mario Kart. That might be it. And then I remember getting the first Donkey Kong Country for Christmas, like the year I got the Super Nintendo. But of all those games, like DKC 2, for whatever reason, was just the one that I most was taken with.
Yeah.
And obviously I like all those other games. I mean, the original Mario Kart hasn't aged as well. I don't know why they put it Mario on Kart Super Nintendo
awful.
Classic.
It is awful. I will always go to bat to say that.
I mean, it's stupid fun, but like there's not much more to it after you play for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I don't know. I just love it. It's a lot of fun. It's, the graphics were groundbreaking at the time. And at this point, that's been said by just about everybody who has a video game podcast.
Absolutely.
But, it looked better than anything else that I had. And I think that the controls are super tight. It's another example of like, I know what I need to do, like the inputs I need to put in to complete this section. Which I value that a lot in a game. It's just fun, man. It's just a lot of fun. It was kind of the perfect storm of the elements that made this series great. Like 3 is a great game as well. Yeah. But I just don't think I don't know, it just doesn't feel as cohesive to me as a package. Mm-hmm. So that's my favorite game.
I no, it's definitely a good one. I have more experience with Donkey Kong Land 2, which was the Game Boy port.
Gotcha.
Which I had a lot more fun with. Because I
and the music. Sorry, the music for the Donkey Kong Country series is masterful, and David Wise is a fucking genius. He's so good.
Yeah, no, it got some bopping jams, right? Oh, super great. So then, what would you say is your most influential then?
That's kind of tough. BioShock did a lot to change the way I think about games.
Sure.
In hindsight, it seems so obvious. Like it was kind of. It fed more strongly into the idea that the story of the game can be told through the environment. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not necessarily the first to do that. I think we made this point already. Yeah, absolutely. But just the way that it took this amount of environmental storytelling and this amount of in the moment narrative and mixed them together, and I don't know, it really says something that even though the world is complete disarray and chaos, and it's by all accounts, it's a shitty place, Rapture. I'm still so taken in by it. I know I'd probably be on fire or a crazed, spliced mess if I lived there.
Absolutely.
But also, I don't know. I think it'd be a cool place to check out.
No, for sure.
From if I could do it, to do it through a video game, obviously.
I was going to say, through simulation as opposed to actually being miles under the ocean.
Yeah. No, but just, I just remember, the first moment I stepped into Arcadia. I was it's not the best zone, but I think it probably has as far as an actual place to go to, it has the most fondness for me. I was just oh wow, and there's all these audio journals in different places talking about what they used to be. I brought Joyce to the tea garden and we're gonna next. It's a little crude, but it gave you an idea of how the citizens of the city live their lives and stuff. And, these weren't even people that were central to the plot. It's I want to know more about these people.
So, in particular, are you an RPG fan?
I do. For the most part, I like RPGs. It kind of depends on the game.
I was going to say, but probably the gameplay. I'm just thinking because as a fan of hidden story, right? Story.
I do like the gameplay too, just to.
Oh no, sure, yeah.
So we're clear.
No, I just think because that was always something I loved about RPGs, especially because Legend of Dragoon or whatever. I'm that one crazy guy who beat all 4 discs. Right?
Oh man, yeah. Well, actually, that brings up another good point. Another really influential game for me. I'm sure there are more that are a little more influential, but it's just a really Tales of Symphonia, which of course is a big sprawling JRPG. That game is filled to the brim with those sort of side stories that if you want extra narrative, you can go find it. Again, they could just be one-off characters in some random city, but you'll get just a little bit more insight into who they are. I really enjoyed that about that game. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed that game through and through. I went back and played it a couple years ago, and it still was totally
It's still
amazing.
On my list. I really need to get into that
one. It's super long, as are most JRPGs. Right. It's 50, 60 hour affair. Highly recommend it. But yeah, so that was that. I think about that game more than I think that I think about it. I played through it 6 times when I was a teenager, right? Yeah. So it's dug itself so deep into my brain that sure. It's just a base element of who Cam is at this point in time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you? What would you say your most influential game is?
I wish it wasn't so basic bitch, but Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh, okay.
Is
I don't know that that's basic bitch. I think most people would say 3.
Well, I guess that's fair. That's pretty fair. Super Mario Brothers 2 and along with that. That's the one.
Oh, that makes sense actually. Like with your art and stuff.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Like my whole existence.
That's fucking awesome, man. I love that. No, that's
my
so
whole
great.
existence is like, because that's not even like so much like it influenced my love of video games, like because like I've always been like a huge platformer. I'm like when like even like when the Wii was out and everyone was hating on Nintendo, like they were the only one putting out solid platformers, so that was my favorite. Mario franchise as a whole, I've loved forever. In fact, right over there. Cam, you can see that tiny little Bowser. Mm-hmm. Like I got that when I was.
Did you get that from Target?
No, I didn't. I got that from 7-Eleven.
I remember Target. Like I was at Target with my mom at one point when I was a young child. And I think like they had a whole line of them, the beanies of the Mario characters, and I really wanted the Bowser doll.
Nope, I got that when I was like what, 3 maybe?
Oh man,
it was from a 7-Eleven. And like I had that instead of a teddy bear for like the longest time. Like Mario is my lifeblood, and I hate to give something so much like power over me, but honestly, like it's inspired.
Mario's like kill all your neighbors.
Yeah,
and the next day on the news,
Mario, if you say so.
Local podcast host goes on killing spree. He says the red man told me to.
He said I did it for the lasagna. I guess it's more Garfield. I did it for the pasta. There you go. Linguini. It's Do
you have anything to say? Mamma mia.
Mamma mia. Mamma mia. That game to me aesthetically is one of the most pleasing games as far as like a platformer goes. Like it was the first platformer I played where it was like, here's these different characters you can play as.
Yeah.
And even now, like games don't do that. It's very much you've got this one character. Like think about like if in God of War. You could also play as not just Kratos, but you could play as like the son, the mom, and then maybe some other guy who could jump real high and flare his feet. Right. You know what I mean? Like that's
the Luigi we call it.
Exactly. I liked the variation. I liked the fact that I got to play those other characters. And to me, it's sort of like something about the colors, the music, all of it together was a super fun time. And I sort of realized like I like video games to be fun, right? Like. And
you monster,
because like even like I do love like Kirby games. Kirby's a great game. Kirby's Adventure or Nightmare in Dreamland. The port was great.
Mm-hmm. I played the crap out of that.
I
game.
did too.
I think 100% it as Kirby and as Meta Knight.
Yep, me too.
Spoiler.
Me too. But like like those games, I would say like are more aesthetically pleasing. And I mean like because we're talking about an NES game. Something about the limitations they had and how creative they were with it. Regardless of the fact that it was Doki Doki, whatever.
Right.
It's to me that is like it just represented my aesthetic. It set my aesthetic.
Sure. And I love that for so many reasons. I mean, mostly just like how pure of a through line that is. Like to like you then and you now, like it totally adds up.
Yeah. But Kevin's like, I got the pieces. Right. They all fit now.
But more than that, like that's a great example. And like the Mario series as a whole mostly is a great example of how they will pick a theme. And actually a better example of this is the Yoshi series, like the standalone Yoshi game. They'll just pick a theme or some sort of aesthetic or just like a conceit of here's how the game is presented.
Yes.
And they will like jam that in your face.
Oh yeah.
Such a good job with it. And the only time I didn't like it was Mario Maker. When everything had a drop shadow. That bothered the crap out of me. That's definitely borrowed from Mario Bros. 3, right? It is, but it's
the
not
stage deal.
Yeah, well, it's not as obnoxious in Mario Bros. 3. Like they don't. It's almost like they're trying to be too clever. They're like, well, we're being clever, but maybe the audience are a bunch of idiots. We'll make everything have a shadow, right? And I don't like that. But like Mario Bros. 3 did it perfectly the first time around. They could have just stuck with that. And even Super Mario Brothers, it's not as like overt with like this is what the theme is, but you can tell that there's some driving principles and like the design of the game visually. And I really, and you know, I was thinking about this just the other day because they've got Yoshi's Crafted World that's about to come out.
It looks great.
And I was like, what a weird concept. Well, actually, I did this with Yoshi's Woolly World the first time. I'm like, why do they do that? And then I'm like, look at Yoshi's Island. It's crayons. Look at Yoshi's Story. It's all like, it's cardboard and like fragile boxes and stuff, right? And then Woolly World obviously is like needlepoint, and then there's, you know, Crafted World, which is like paper plates and plastic cups and stuff. So it's like that's always been the Yoshi's, like one of the unique facets of the Yoshi series.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I mean,
it really is.
if it's to the detriment of like your enjoyment of the game, then that's one thing. But it never has been in those cases,
no,
especially in the Mario games. Like it's just so charming.
No, charming is the exact way to put it. There's a charm to it that I love wholeheartedly. So yeah, I can't even. No, I think it's legit. Like because I'm trying to think of other games that like inspired me, but like I'm just at heart I am such a big fan of platformers. I like Super Meat Boy is great.
Oh yeah,
I love.
Meat Boy. Do you ever play Celeste?
Yes, Celeste is so good. There's just something about it. There's this new one out right now called Wonder Song, and it's more of like a point.
Isn't that by the Celeste people?
Is it?
I think it was made by the same people that made Celeste.
Maybe it's more of like a point and click adventure.
Okay.
Well, I say that, but it's also like kind of a platformer. But like it's super fun. But like yeah, like I like platforming elements. I've always been a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
And it's probably my favorite. Like I like so many games right now, and it's really hard to pinpoint like what exactly. If I made a game, how would it come down to? And I feel like if I'd capturing, and I know it's been done between Shovel Knight, and if you haven't played it already, please play The Messenger. The Messenger is a fantastic. It's different enough to I feel kind of bad comparing it, but they're different enough, right? Like The Messenger and Shovel Knight both have that classic pixel art aesthetic, but man, those games could be any more different. But they're both perfect captures of platformers to me
at a point in time.
Yeah, well, it's cool too because like The Messenger definitely has that what do you call it, that Metroidvania style.
Oh yeah,
but like it's smart about it because like it comes in later, so at first it seems more just like a typical platformer.
Yeah,
but regardless. And like I feel like people kind of think that's a cheap shot, right? Like it's like, oh, you're attaching things to nostalgia or whatever. But like I think that's interesting gameplay to me. That's fun gameplay. And if I were to make a game, I probably would go something around that route.
Sure. No, I like that they're doing that these days though, because like, you know, the only reason that like the 16-bit era or the 8-bit era like ended is because the technology got better, but that doesn't mean that the space was completely explored. Yeah. 8-bit probably a little more. Like we had the 8-bit era for a long time. But specifically like the 16-bit, which I mean like is really coming into its own, or has been for the last couple of years. Like I don't think we saw everything that could be done in that space.
I agree.
And so I like that there's a lot of games coming out where they're like, well, we're gonna take those ideas and we're gonna purposely like limit ourselves in certain areas.
Yeah.
But creatively we're not limited, and we can still cheat a little bit. I mean, even Shovel Knight, which is like one of the more faithful representations.
Right.
They had to cheat on the color palette.
Exactly.
And they had to, give themselves the good Castlevania 3 chip in emulation to like get all the sounds and stuff. But, and they didn't have like a sprite size limit or whatever. No.
But I like that too. It's something about like the idea of like they had being limited, right? Like in old Nintendo games where they had like, or not even old Nintendo games, like old arcade games even, where it was like, I have to make the background black and a color on this character transparent so that it appears black.
Yeah.
Like to me, I love that. That's so like, you had to be so creative about that. And like,
well, and as a programmer, like seeing the types of stuff they had to deal with to even get that to happen was like a whole different level. Like I'm not that hardcore.
Sure.
I could not be a game developer in like the late 80s.
Where they had like they would just have boss enemies just be the background, then they just move them around. Yeah. Oh, it's so smart. I love it. So yeah, I definitely say it's like not even just like my love of video games, but just my love of everything. I definitely Mario 2.
Yeah.
Next question.
So I don't even know if I had this written down, but it just occurred to me, like, what would you say is a genre or a concept for games that you kind of wish you could get on board with, but just can't get around?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, when it comes down to it, fighting games.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Because like even sports games, I can kind of look at in a.
This is mimicking something from real life.
Yeah. Well, no, not even that. I can look at it like a board game.
Oh yeah.
So like when I'm playing like Madden, whatever, 20xd6, I can look at it like, okay, yeah, this is just like a board game or something. It's
what is this challenge?
Making small rocks float off the ground. It's so like I can give it that, right? I actually really love golfing games.
Interesting.
Fighting games bore the shit out of me. I don't know what it is. Something about like their slow movement or whatever. I used to play Tekken a bunch, Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. Not Papa John's. What was it? Pizza Hut? One of the pizza places. Papa Romano's. That's the one. Papa Romano's had a arcade cabinet, and they had Tekken on it.
Oh.
Between Tekken, Street Fighter, like whatever it is, they're just so boring. Something about the input, right? Like, so like it's very much so like the point of the game is to outmaneuver your opponent, right? Mm-hmm. So like you have to have the proper input for the proper combo maneuver to react to whatever is coming at you. To me, it's just not engaging, and I don't know why. Honestly, I'm trying, like, if I had a solid reason. Because I'm not saying they're inherently bad games at all.
Sure, no, that's the point. Like, we think they're good games, we just can't play them.
That's the thing, right? Like, there's just something about their movement, and there is a style of fighting game that I do enjoy. Like, so for example, there's the Tenkaichi games, specifically Dragon Ball Tenkaichi 2.
Have you played Pokken Tournament?
I haven't yet.
It's pretty similar.
Okay,
yeah,
but there's something.
I'll bring it over sometime. I have it.
I'd be totally down to. The way that game works. Is like you're in this 3D space and you just move it so fast and it feels so good.
Yeah, I liked those games a lot. I never got any good at them.
My little brother and I were the bomb at them. And I think I might have told you this already, but like, we played through, we burnt the disc out because we played it so much. We went through so many controllers because like you gotta, and not even like throwing the controllers out of anger. It was, we broke the controllers because like our thumbs are just moving so fast trying to counteract each other.
I can't imagine the PS2 controller was any good for playing fighting games.
It was not, but it was great. It was still fun. Like, it was a fun time. And like, I don't consider Smash. This is gonna make so many people upset. I don't consider Super Smash Brothers a fighting game.
No, I mean I can like, and I just want to expand on your previous point before we get into that. Like, I can't get into those traditional 2D fighters really either. Yeah. Like the closest I got was I played a lot of Soul Calibur 2. But like I feel the same way. Like
that was another one. I remember they came out with it for the GameCube and it had Link. Yep, and it was like, it's like you got to try it. And I was like, fine. And I tried it, and then I used to play Nightmare. I think the guy with the big arm.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is dumb.
And like, I think it's the same thing. Like, whereas I was just talking about the freedom of control that you're like supposed to have in fighting games.
Yes.
It's the complete opposite if you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So like you and I never put the time in to figure out how to make, Ryu move correctly.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that it's there, right? And I'm sure it involves a combination of moving, ducking, jumping, like hitting attacks that give you more space or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't even speak to it.
To me, it's a total. I think I just thought about it because you mentioned like it's these 2D fighters, right?
Yeah.
And I agree. Like it is a 2D fighter since because of the feedback. I think when I play like they just came out with what was it? I forget what the new Dragon Ball Z game.
Fighters Z
Fighters Z or whatever. And like even at that speeds that those characters can move. The feedback feels so limited.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these there's too many colors on the screen to the point where it's like, I can't even tell what's going on.
Yeah.
So, like, it feels like they're trying to compensate for that. Like, they know. Like, when you punch, you get this huge flash and whatever. I think games that have more freedom of movement and more freedom of a field that you're fighting on work for me because the feedback feels better. When I kick and I send someone flying backwards, it feel like I can feel that kick.
Yeah.
And the screen can zoom out enough to where like you can still get like a flat like some kind of flashy signal to show that you hit the impact of the kick or whatever without it taking up much of the screen, right?
Yeah.
So that there's aspects to it, and I think it's a little more complicated than just saying like it's aesthetics, but I feel like ultimately I could narrow it down to the feedback I get. And that's why I love Super Smash Brothers. Despite the fact I don't really consider it a fighting game too much, but like it is like it
depends on how you're playing it.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to define it as like the gameplay is you have to input these codes before your opponent inputs these codes because you're reacting to them, right? Mm-hmm. That's if we're gonna get down to like a fighting game, that's kind of like its core elements, right?
Yeah.
That's the gameplay, if you will. Mm-hmm. So, like, Smash Brothers has that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can toss me up in the air and juggle me around and then kick me off the stage, and I have to react to that properly, right?
Sure.
But, like, yeah, the way, like, it's zoomed out, and like the feedback of every hit, like when you send someone flying off that stage, like that feels good.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like when I'm fucking Ryu and I'm like Hadouken, and then like it just like little spurts, and then the guy kind of like like he flies back like 2 feet and then he's done. And to me, that's not what it's. I want to feel larger than life when I play these fighting games.
Right.
And it's weird because like I love martial arts and stuff, and I'm not all about that. Like when I see like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon type stuff where it's like super wire fu, exactly. Like I'm not into that, but I do love an essence of that, because I like the Drunken Master movies is like my favorite. I love Legend of the Drunken Master, or then there's Drunken Fist. Jackie Chan movies, they're fantastic. And it doesn't have wire fu, but it's definitely Jackie Chan doing shit that isn't practical.
Chewing the scenery.
But I mean, like when he kicks somebody and it sends them through a wall, it's dope, and I'm down for that. And like if I'm being Ganondorf and I whale you with my fist and you fly off the stage, that feels good.
Yeah. The point I wanted to address about those, like the more traditional games, is like the way I describe it is, you feel like a prisoner in your character's body.
Yes! Oh my gosh, yes!
You're being held back by the fact that you can't make your character do what you think they should be doing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, that's my take on what's being presented to me. Like, I never feel like I am good enough to make what I have in my head happen on screen. No matter, like, of course, with practice. But, like, no matter, if I sit down and I play for an hour with somebody, that's not enough time. And so it's just going to feel like crap to me from beginning to end.
Yeah. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But I definitely would say like it's one I wish I could get into, because I know it has such a huge following.
Yeah.
But it's just one, and for a long time, honestly, it was FPSs.
Yeah.
Fighters were low on the scale for me, but like first person shooters were even lower.
Yeah.
Until TF2 came out.
And I love TF2.
Yeah, that
no surprises there.
Yeah, that kind of got
Overwatch.
me into it. Right, exactly. Yeah.
See, and now I'm like, I don't know. I don't really like FPSs that much. Like, I think the core gameplay loop is such that, like, whereas with a fighting game, like, you can always put sort of a variable amount of, like, punches and kicks and strong attacks and stuff in there to, like, create variety. Like, I just feel like, I mean, obviously, you get into, like, whatever types of guns. And I enjoy Overwatch from a very, very casual perspective.
Sure.
I haven't played in forever. But, like, I still have, I hold it, there's a place in my heart for Overwatch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't know, I just feel like there's not a lot that differentiates, like, overtly bad play of, like, at least the shooter part of the game. That's the thing about Overwatch. There's so much more around it. There's the team-based element. Yeah. And there's the objectives. And so, like, there's more going on. Like, if you suck at the game, 50% of the time, it's not because you didn't shoot good, right? It's because you weren't where you needed to be, or you weren't following the team.
Absolutely.
Whatever.
No, yeah, there's more to it.
Yeah, and there's abilities. It's not just, but when you it's just like a gun, and you have to go, like, shoot the guys. Like, it's just, it's samey to me.
I totally get that, but I mean, like, as someone who, like, really likes platformers, I'd argue, like, that's what my brain enjoys, when I have a direct input, and then I can see a result from that input.
Yeah.
When I'm playing a platformer, I jump, I tap the button when I need to tap the button to get the moves I need to do to get to the place I need to get to. So I see that direct. Every time I tap A, Mario does the good jump, and I do the good jump. He does the good jump.
What jump did you do? I did the good jump.
He did the good jump, and he gets on the good platform, and, like, life is good. And it's the same thing, like, if I'm sniping or, like, shooting, like, I tap A, and then bam, their head goes off. And I'm like, like, I did it. That's the thing.
That's fair.
But, like, for some reason, in fighting games, like, it doesn't function for me. Would you say FPSs are yours then, or?
Well, I mean, like, kind of a mix of the two, yeah. Again, like, flash in the pan, like, the whole battle royale thing that's going on right now. Like, I wish I enjoyed it just so I could get in on these games that apparently everyone seems to love. But I haven't even started. Like, I haven't even tried to, because it just doesn't.
You know what I think would be fun? Has there been, like, a Melee battle royale yet? Because they all seem to be like
100 people on a really big stage or something, or Melee with hitting people.
No, I'm thinking like hitting, like, so, like, think about, like, if you had
like pipe wrenches.
like Fortnite, but instead it was just on the big Tenkaichi stage.
Oh yeah, no.
And so you just have a bunch of martial artists just going at each other.
No, I do not think there was,
like, leaping and kicking. Like, I think it could be fun.
There was another, like, battle royale game, but it was still very much a third-person shooter style. And like the emphasis was more on like melee weapons, like you could actually do stuff with them.
Sure.
But I digress. Yeah. So and then like I'm trying to think here. Like you know what it is. Honestly, it's RTSs. Like if I could like find it within myself and had the time to play a bunch of like StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
I like being able to show that level of mastery over the game would like I would get a great deal of satisfaction from that. It's never gonna happen. Like I just can't. You know. I find it very interesting, but it's like it's interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoy watching people who are really good at StarCraft, knowing that I'm never gonna get even close to that level. And you know what? That's fine. But at the same time, like I wish I could have enjoyed it to some degree at some point in my life.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah. Again, like to me, it's kind of like a board game deal. I can enjoy those. The same way I can enjoy like turn-based, like Civilization.
Civ 5,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm down with those.
But I think, definitely RTS games are like the biggest hole in my like portfolio. I've played them. I'm just not good at them.
I totally understand that. I feel like there's not a lot of those. I can't think like when I think of RTSs, I can't think of like outside of Blizzard. I can't think of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like
I know they're out there, but
Age of Empires or Command and Conquer.
I used to play the crap out of Command and Conquer. You're right. Oh, I forgot about that.
Traitor. You're a traitor to yourself.
You just unlocked a whole aspect of my childhood. I used to get so angry at that game.
Yeah, that's understandable.
All right, so we'll do one more, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, sounds good. I guess you could tie it into games, or you could not. But like, what would you say is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, jeez. Gosh. So here's the thing. I have to think about this in like an aspect of like mainstream culture, right? Because I don't regret anything I've ever done, and I don't have like. I would never feel like if I enjoy something, I don't feel guilty about it.
Right.
I'm that kind of asshole. So I'm trying to think like, what would it be? I guess my favorite music genre is 80s pop.
Oh.
And I feel like a lot of people don't like 80s pop.
Really?
So maybe like, yeah, I could get down to some Madonna. Like I'm down with that.
Yeah. I mean, those like albums have sold millions of copies. There are a lot of people who just won't admit to it.
That's the thing. Well, that's the thing though, because like there it is. You just said it. They won't admit to it. And I for me that's it shouldn't be a secret to anybody. Like I love 80s music. I also listen to like classical music. Like I listen to all different types of genres aside from country. No offense, country, just you're awful.
Yeah, don't take it personally. You're the only genre he feels that way about.
Quite literally, I've tried. So like rap, I wasn't huge into. And then my roommates kind of got me into it, and I was like, oh, like I get it. It was just misunderstood, right? I have tried with country. I've tried so hard with country. I cannot. There's something about it. And to be fair, there's respects of other music too, right? Like I like pop punk, but like there's a lot of punk songs I'm not a huge fan of.
Sure.
So on and so forth. But when it comes down to it, like the only thing I know, like if I say that to somebody will go, ew, why? It's definitely my love of like 80s pop.
Yeah. See, and like, I don't know. I have this unexplained love affair with like the 80s,
Yeah, same.
And part of that, I mean, there's a big pop culture portion to that because like the generation that made everything we watched up until a few years ago came up through the 80s and glorified it like it was the greatest time that ever happened in the entirety of the history of the universe.
Was so good. There was the Cold War, the war on drugs. Oh.
People could just do cocaine and not be vilified for it. But no, I mean, like some of my favorite music, as I've mentioned, is like synthwave. It's doing what Shovel Knight did. It's purposely taking something from an older era,
absolutely,
and sort of recreating it in spirit. I mean, and more than anything, it's just good music. Like I stumbled upon synthwave, like not even having heard any of it, but I was like, this band does like this type of 80s music. It's like it's music nobody can hate,
right?
So I'm just gonna listen to it while I work, and I ended up really liking it. But that's not my guilty pleasure. It's just a thing that relates to yours. Yeah, no,
I'm trying to think of something else, but like I've never. That's the only thing I can think of where like if I bring it up, someone will be like, ew. Whereas like because I'll bring up like I used to watch Sailor Moon and I love like a lot of like feminine anime, but people don't care about that anymore.
That's kind of mine. Like not feminine. I think a lot of like the cute girls doing cute things sort of anime. I love those for some reason. And it's not like a weird like lolicon thing like it is for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, no.
It's just nice to watch something that like doesn't have any like darker like
no,
hinting.
it's just
like
it's all just wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely devoid of like actual like value. You know, it's like eating a bowl of sugar, right? But I don't know. I just sometimes you need that, right?
No, absolutely. But like I said, like I'll bring that stuff up, and no one seems to bat an eye at that.
See, and I'm the opposite. Like,
really?
I will be like, yeah, I listen to fucking, I can't think of an 80s pop artist, you know, like Hall & Oates or something.
Yeah, Hall & Oates, yeah. I love Hall & Oates,
I ain't never going to be ashamed of that, but like when it comes to like big-eyed anime girls, I'm like,
oh, that's so funny.
I like it when stuff blows up.
That's so funny.
Which sucks. I hate that about myself.
Sure, no, it's because like I'll bring up like just recently I rewatched Lovely Complex. I don't know if you've seen it.
I don't know that one.
It's an adorable little anime.
Putting it on the list.
You should. No, Lovely Complex is great. I watched that. I was just talking about it with my friends, and like even people who are like hurt into anime were like, "Oh, that sounds cute." And then like I was like, "Oh yeah," like I got really upset one day at work at my day job, and I was just singing Material Girl from Madonna because like, it just put me in a good mood. And I was just singing that while I was busting tables. Yeah. And sure enough, freaking everyone was like, why?
Sure enough, you were a material
girl. I was. And I was living in a material world. That was crazy. But like that one for some reason, like, which is weird to me because like I feel like you said, like those albums have sold millions. Like there's a reason they're there, right? I guess I'd be more embarrassed if it was like, if I was really into... No, see, like, I just can't. I just, like even if I listen to, like, Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift, I'm trying to think of, like, things I don't like, right? I'm not a huge fan of those. And, like, when someone brings them up that they like that, I'm like, whatever. That's your shtick. That doesn't bother me none. Weird, this is a weird take, but I just want to see if we'll try and run with it, and if it doesn't go anywhere, I can cut it.
Okay.
So
now you get to ask the question.
Yeah, exactly. So that's your guilty pleasure. Do you rip on it? What do you rip on people for enjoying?
Oh, nothing, because I'm a wonderful parent.
That's bullshit. I know. Come on, I just want to know.
I mean, honestly, it's like it's the polar opposite of the stuff that I just talked about. Like, if it's the like. It's not even like, it's just like if you're trying really hard to be hyper masculine.
Oh, dude, hyper masculinity. I will kick you right off that horse.
Yeah, no, and it's because it's like, why? Like, that is only one way to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I don't know.
No, that's a fun one.
I guess I'm not trying to say that like there's no reason to like those things, but like it's a lot harder for me to wrap my head around it.
And I had to. There was a time in my life where I kind of had to get over the fact that like it's not always an act. Sure. I used to make fun of. I had a friend who was always like, oh, football, chicks, and beer, and I was like, okay, like I used to rip on him all the time, and like I like flirt with him, which would make him super uncomfortable. And but then like it took me a second before I realized like he wasn't being malicious about it. He wasn't like he like pulled me aside one time. He's like, listen, dude, like I think you like you might like me. And, you might be gay. He's like, and that's totally cool. I'm not. I'm just into chicks, all right? And I was like, oh, dude, I've been joking this whole time. And he's like, oh, really? But then I realized, like, he was so nice and honest about it. Like, I realized, oh, this is just someone who's super masculine.
I may have crossed the line.
I did. No, it was crazy. To me, like, I never, as someone who is very, I don't want to, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that doesn't, like, sort of devalue that point of view, but, like I'm very open with my perspectives, right? Like feminine, masculine, neutral, regardless. So like to me, it just didn't dawn on me that someone could just fit in that one spectrum.
Sure.
And like this was just a human being who did, and he was super cool. Like, so like now I try not to be as aggressive about it. Before, like if someone is masculine, sometimes I think to myself, I have to remind myself, like maybe they're just genuinely a masculine person.
And I don't take issue with like masculinity.
Oh, I know. I'm
like,
just saying, me personally.
If they're like, I wake up in the morning and I chainsaw a tree down and I
some
eat
people
a steak.
Do that.
And,
some people like to chew on bark while they're.
Okay, and that's really what it comes down to is like even if like I don't like that I rip on people for stuff like that. Like it's just I accidentally find myself doing it sometimes.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Like especially too because like I'm a bit of an asshole. Yeah. Sometimes I enjoy ripping on people. I think it's funny though that you said it was the opposite of like the things you said because I think most of the time when I rip on people, it's usually for like the opposite. Like it. So for example, country music. I'm cool that you like country music. That's fine, whatever. Not you personally, Cam. I just mean
don't get
you.
That
I know. I'm not. No.
Lies and slander.
Just the audience. Like that's cool. You listen to country music, but like I love making like if I'm in a truck with you, if I'm in your big old truck and you start playing like
Kenny Chesney.
Yep, exactly. I'm gonna make fun of you. Like it's gonna be something.
Yeah. I mean, in realistic, like, no matter what I rip on you for, like, feel free to like your own thing.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the most important.
It's all for fun, right? Like,
yeah.
I was thinking about dog lovers, but
I
love ripping on dog lovers. Yeah.
No comment.
No, come on, Cam.
Megan is a huge dog lover, and I just.
You're a huge dog lover.
With that shit. I am, but like I rein it in a little bit. Like,
do you?
You know who I'm a bigger asshole to than anyone else in my life? My dog.
That's fair.
Because she doesn't listen and she makes a mess and she's stupid. But I mean, I love my dog. I love animals. I would not categorize myself as like I wouldn't put it in big letters. Like it's on the resume, but it's like third or fourth down, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I was gonna say is like if I don't know, like I almost, and I hate to like potentially alienate some people, but like if the only thing you care about in your life is money, don't even talk to me. Here's the thing: you gotta put food on the table. I gotta put food on the table. Like I gotta do something to make money because I don't want to live on the street like a street person. But at the same time, like if you were to tell me like
a street person.
If you were like, well, you can work 8 hours today and make this amount of money, or you can stay here till 9 p.m. and you'll make this many extra hours. I'm like, no, I'm going home. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna play video games and drink beer.
That's it. Okay, so
because it's not all about like you get the money to do the things you'd rather be doing. Like if all you're doing is the money part, then you're like, and plus 99 times out of that plus one, it's coming at the expense of other people.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't see a way around that. So.
I'm so glad you brought that up because one, it ties it nicely to like the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. But two, like, so yeah, as someone who values experiences over the fleeting material things that in our existence, like I always get this, and it's not just with like my current day job, but like other jobs I've worked in the past where like people will shit on you, right? like they'll like. Employees will call off or do something and leave you alone to where you just get wrecked. So yeah, they'll leave. You have to deal with all this terrible stuff, and like, oh yeah, but I mean, like, I'm sure you made a lot of good money. Like you're trying to find a silver lining that doesn't work for me because I'm an intellectual human being who doesn't value this made up thing we call currency, right? Like, it's no, thank you. I'd rather have had a smooth shift than a butthole one and make more money. Like, oh, that stuff always bothers me.
Yeah.
But
no, and that's really what it comes down to is like, yeah, it's just like a lot, like this happened a lot when I was like had first moved out. My dad was like, oh, like I've got this job that my company wants done. We need a couple extra pairs of hands. Do you want to come? And I'm like, okay, well, is it the whole weekend? And he goes, yeah, like, you know, you'd be done at like 3:00 on Sunday. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna pass.
Right.
But you're gonna make so much money. It's like, yeah, but weekends there's only so many of them. It's one of the only days that nothing's expected of me. Don't make something expected of me.
Absolutely. It's interesting too where there's...
No offense, Dad. If you're listening, which is unlikely. Although thank you if you are. I love you.
I think it's an interesting disconnect, right? Like it's all about like what you place value in. And I'm not saying like if you place value in money, you're wrong. I'm just saying it's something I have trouble identifying with because I can't find value in something that rots away or that is also like its value is completely illusionary, right? So like you can tell me all about making money. If I'm not having fun, I'm out of it. Which is probably why we ended up where we are in life, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, no, and here's the thing. Like, the thing with, like, the difference between money and, like, happiness you get through experiences is, like, people have to explain to you the value of money.
Yeah.
It has to be told to you. But you hold the value of your experiences however you hold them, and no one can take that away from you.
Absolutely.
And no one can change that.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's different. And, like, you know, just, I'm not saying, like, don't go out there and try and achieve your hardest. Like, I'm not saying don't take a job that pays well. I'm just saying, like, if you've got a family or like hobbies you like do those too.
Absolutely, balance it out.
Yeah, don't lose sight of like what you like to do or like the other things that define you other than just like a number on a piece of paper.
Sure. Absolutely. And if you try your hardest, maybe you too can talk to your best friend on a podcast that makes no money.
Yeah. Yeah, you can achieve the dream. It's a big deal.
No, but I think that's a good point to end on, because I feel like that defines us more. The whole point of this being like, get to know us, like we're people who like we just place value in happiness and that positivity, and we're not going to let life, regardless of the structure our culture may impose on us, like we're not going to let that define us as who we are.
We're going to do our best to have our own little microcosm of what
Absolutely.
we like to do, while still not going broke and having to eat cardboard.
Yeah, and what we like to do is play games and apparently
talk about them.
So that's what we're gonna do, and hopefully you guys enjoy that too.
Yeah. I guess that kind of wraps up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have a little, at least a better understanding of who your hosts are now. Yeah. How cool we are.
It'll be a little less of like, well, what gives them the right? And now you know the answer is nothing.
Now you know we don't have it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. But if you like listening to us to kind of talk nonsense about games that don't exist,
absolutely.
You've come to the right place.
This is where you come to hang out. Crack open a beer, turn on some bits, chips, and flip scripts, and sit back and relax.
Yeah. Hopefully this will richen the experience. I really hope that getting the opportunity to say things that don't come out normally. That I always, again, with all the podcasts I listen to, like the more I listen, the more I feel like I know the hosts. And
absolutely.
I think that it deepens your connection and makes you want to listen to it more. So I want to hear what that guy has to say, not necessarily only what he has to say.
Absolutely.
Like, how he says it, and his opinions on things. That's what makes a podcast different from like a weather radio report.
Absolutely. No, that's we're not the news. We're a podcast. We're a radio show.
And we're not trying to say we're better outright, but thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys. I'm Bam.
Tell your friends. I'm Cam.
Yes, tell your friends. And remember, the smallest act can make for the biggest changes. Have a great night, guys.
We love you.
Thank you all so much for listening. For updates on future episodes, you can follow us on Twitter at BCandFS. Again, that's BCandFS. If you have some fun ideas of a game to change, please feel free to email us at bcandfs@gmail.com. We want to give a special thanks to Melman for letting us use his song Flowers for the intro. It's a fantastic piece, and you can find more fantastic work like it at melman.org. Again, that's MALMEN.org. Thanks for listening.